Oh boy, we're back. We're still here, not canceled yet. Here's the giveaway for today. MAPS Split. This is our more advanced bodybuilder workout program, and we're going to give one of you free access, okay? But this is what you got to do if you want free access. You have to enter the contest by leaving a comment below the first 24 hours that we drop this episode, subscribe to this channel, and turn on your notifications. If you do all three things, all of those, and we pick your comment, we'll notify you, and you'll get free access to MAPS Split. Also, we're running a sale on two very popular MAPS workout programs. So the first one is MAPS Performance. This program is athletic-minded. So train like an athlete, look like an athlete, move like an athlete. So if that kind of workout is what you enjoy doing, that is a great program. Now that program's 50% off. Another program that's 50% off is MAPS Aesthetic. This is more of a bodybuilder type of workout program. So if you want to develop balance and symmetry and sculpt and shape and build your body, this program may be right for you. It's also 50% off. So here's how you get the discounts, okay? If you want MAPS Performance, go to mapsgreen.com. If you want MAPS Aesthetic, go to mapsblack.com. And the code for 50% off for both programs is FEB50. So again, that's FEB50 with no space for the 50% off discount. All right, here comes the show. Hey, does your knee hurt? Oftentimes, the knee pain is actually not coming from your knee. It's caused by something else.
What would that be, Sal?
Yeah. You know what? The reason why I wanted to say this is we had a question on
not just one. We've had like 3 or 4 in the last couple weeks.
MAPS Prime Pro is a correctional exercise kind of based program, and all the major joints are in there that you can address, except for the knees. And oftentimes we get people messaging us, why aren't the knees on here? My knees hurt. And that's a common area that people have pain.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to explain a little bit about knee pain and what the most common reasons are that your knees tend to bother you. So the best explanation I can give is this, is that the knee joint itself, although it's this way more complex than the way I'm gonna make it sound, it really only has 2 functions, right? It flexes and extends. So I can bend my knee and I can straighten my knee, right? Flex and extend. I can't rotate the knee joint. I can't bend it laterally. I can only, flex my knee and extend my knee. But the ankle joint and the hip joint that are attached closest to the knee, they're very dynamic, right? I can rotate my ankle to a certain degree. I can definitely bend it laterally, flex it and extend it. My hip joint, I can rotate it, bend it laterally. I can flex it. I can extend it. And so when those joints lack stability, they lack strength or mobility, what happens is the ligaments of the knee that keep it from doing anything but flexing and extending, all those ligaments that keep it from rotating and bending laterally, they have to bear the brunt of the pressure to prevent the knee from doing these things. So if your ankles and your hips are off, oftentimes over time, you'll start to have knee pain. And you're like, whoa, it's something that's wrong with my knee.
It's trying to make up for a lot of the stress that it needs to stabilize the knee. And it a lot of times, because your ankle and your hips are so dynamic, you'll get put in a lot of different angles, and your knee will tend to travel, in one direction or the other, and to try and keep it stable. A lot of times it just stresses it out, and then the ligaments take the brunt of the force.
The same principles apply for the elbow too. So if you're suffering from elbow pain, a lot of people are always looking for like exercises they can do or things they can do for the elbow itself, but many times that's related to the wrist or the shoulder. So if you have poor mobility in your shoulder or your wrist, or lack stability and control in either of those joints, the stress goes to the elbow. So a lot of times you're looking at the area that's bothering you, thinking that there's something wrong there, but it's actually stemming from one of the other joints.
Yeah, think of it this way, right? Like if I think of a submission in jiu-jitsu called a heel hook, right? So if I took your foot, I straighten your leg out, and I go to twist your leg, but your hip won't rotate. For whatever reason, your hip lacks mobility, and I start twisting, the ligaments in the knee are going to have to hold tight, and if I twist hard enough, I'm going to tear your knee. And so
it's
this
sort of your last line of defense.
It is, and so this is the problem. So people will squat and lunge and deadlift and do all these different exercises, and their ankles and knees aren't doing. Their ankles and hips aren't doing what they're supposed to. And over time, when the knee flexes and extends, the kneecap kind of tracks There's like a little groove in the femur, and the kneecap tracks in it, and things have to be in the right position. Well, if pressure's being put in one direction, things start to track wrong. The joints then starts to get undue pressure. Over time, that builds inflammation. Then you go to the doctor, they image your knee, and they go, "Oh, you have inflammation in your knee," but they never address, right? Or oftentimes they don't address the root cause, which is it's because your ankles are tight or immobile or weak, or your hips are tight or immobile and weak. And so this is why oftentimes the solution for chronic knee pain resides there and not in the actual, doing stuff with the knee itself type of deal.
The low back is like this too. A lot of times clients will have, say they have a bad back, or their low back is always bothering them, and they think it's their low back where the issue is. And a lot of times it's related to your hips. The inability to control and have stability in your hips and mobility in them is what is causing the low back to be stressed a lot of times too.
Yeah, and think about it this way, right? Like you're like, oh, my knees bother me when I squat, so I'm going to put knee sleeves or knee wraps, right? What those are doing is they're doing the job, or it's like your ligaments except externally, and now you've added more ligaments and support. So now the knee doesn't hurt as much. Again, not addressing the root issue, which is when you squat, maybe your knee is you're pushing it, laterally, or there's some sometimes if your ankles are tight and you go down to squat, there's this rotational pressure that happens because really tight ankles, when you squat down, they want to turn out. But if your feet are grounded, that rotational pressure then gets taken on by the knee. Like, God, it's weird when I squat heavy, I have this weird pain inside my knee. Like there must be something wrong with my knee.
And it's just a little tiny degree of change. If it's off track, just that little bit, like your analogy with the sliding glass door.
Yeah.
Like just that little fractional inch that it's off, it ruins the whole thing. Like the whole thing is based on the fact that it stays stable in these movements, and if it's not, there's lots of compensations that have to occur, which stresses out the entire system.
Well, it's really obvious too, like when you go through MAPS Prime Pro, and most often when someone has like a knee issue, it's normally on one side or the other more than the other side, right? So this is where it becomes really obvious of what the issue is when you get into and you do the 90-90 test, or you do the ankle mobility test in Prime Pro. If the side that you have pain in your knee also has issues with the in the 90-90 position and or the ankle, this is where it's coming from. That's how you need to work on that. Is like, okay, I've got pain on this side. When I get down in this 90-90, oh wow, I can't even get my knee on the ground, or I can't lift my back heel up in that position. Oh, there's obviously a stability issue and control and mobility issue in that hip. That's where you need to start, is addressing that. And then the same thing goes for the ankle.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I experienced this myself. A few years ago, I was on vacation, and I was working out in a hotel gym. This was in Mexico, so it's real warm and kind of humid or whatever. And there were marble floors. And as I was leaving the gym, I fell down the stairs, and my left foot, I sat on it and kind of slid. And I thought for sure when I got to the bottom, like I tore something.
Yeah.
Now when I stood up, luckily I didn't tear anything, but I did do a number on my left ankle. And since then, my left ankle's always had a little bit less mobility than my right. So still to this day, if I squat heavy and if there's any issues with my form, I feel it in my left knee. I never feel it in my left ankle, but that's where it's coming from. Because as my left ankle is tight, that's exactly what happens. As I squat, I know what happens. To compensate, my leg wants to rotate. But because my foot is so grounded, I get that rotational pressure in my left knee, which goes to my meniscus, right? And so then I'm squatting, so I'm bending the joint.
It's a snowball effect up the kinetic chain.
Yes, and I'm bending the knee while I'm with weight, but the meniscus is holding tight, preventing things from twisting. With enough weight and reps, you're going to start to develop pain. And these are the causes of chronic pain, which, by the way, this is different than an acute injury, right? So if your knee hurts because you just tore your knee, okay, that's different, right?
Different.
But if you're like, oh, my knee, it always bothers me, and it's been an issue I've had for a couple of years, and I don't know what that deal is, and when I walk too much or run too much or do lots of squats, it starts to bother my knee. It's coming from a dysfunction, and it's usually the joints closest to the knee. Like in this case, the knee is surrounded by or connected to in comparison, very dynamic joints. You can do a lot of things with your ankle and your hip, especially your hip. Your knee doesn't do those things. It just flexes and extends. So that's where, a lot of the the pain comes from. You develop a lot of pain that way.
So, since you mentioned pain, there was a painful moment for me this weekend that I was like, "Oh no, did I make a massive parenting mistake or what?" Oh, dude. So I had the full day with my oldest, Ethan, and it was cool because like I don't really get a lot of alone time. Like it's usually like with both boys, and so I usually have to kind of tone down the fact that he's older. He's 3 years older, and so like we do a lot of stuff that's not too mature.
Something that Everett can do also.
Yeah, so Everett can hang with us and do all that. So he
you
was actually
overdid it?
doing his own thing. Yeah. So well, first off, we start by going paintballing, which I thought was awesome, and it was fun, and we got a lot of fun doing that with his cousin and my brother-in-law, and yeah, so we went after it, and then I got home and I'm like, you know what? We don't really get to go see like more kind of mature movies, and Jackass just came out.
Oh god!
And I remember like how hilarious like the last couple were, but like you know, there's some scenes and some skits in there that were definitely suspect, like not, you know, like they've had stuff where they've had
Like
to
we put
drink semen and you know, they so anyways,
Like we put the
all
race
of
car up
that
his butt.
stuff that was bad they put in the new one and times like 10.
Oh wow!
Right. So it was like
Did it come right out the gates too,
Dude,
or did it warm you up a little bit?
there was so many dicks in this movie, dude, that I cannot explain to my kid. You know, like I'm just sitting there like, what have I done? Like the opening scene, and I don't care if it's spoil. It's literally you're gonna see it. You have to see it to.
I don't think there's
appreciate it.
anything spoiling
You
about
can't
Jackass.
spoil any
You know
of
what
it.
you're getting.
Yeah,
don't
you can't spoil any
There's
of
a
it.
plot twist.
Most of these like have been reenacted skits anyways
Yeah.
that they just put themselves in like serious harm's way. So the guy Chris Pontius, I think he starts off. He painted his dick green, right, and he's like underneath this platform where basically they turned it into like a Godzilla. And so they're like puppeteering his dick, and like everybody's like running away and stuff, and like, you know, buildings are smashing. So they did this whole thing where it was like, so that's the opener, right? And I'm like, oh my god, like you see everything.
Yeah.
And he's definitely circumcised. You know, congratulations. And you know, and then it gets into like all this other crazy stuff, dude. I can't believe that Johnny Knoxville's still alive, dude. He did the same one with the bull. It hit him so hard, like he landed, broke his arm, and then was like out, blacked out, and like I thought he died.
So what's your guys' theory on these guys still doing this? Like, do they need the money? Do you like they've already made a ton of money, right, doing this stuff?
Yeah. Well, first,
I mean, they're known for this. Like, I think this is like their identity at this point.
I know,
Exactly.
but these guys are in their, I mean, they're late 40s now.
Yeah.
Late 40s.
and they're not like normal, healthy late 40s.
None of them look good.
They've pushed the limit forever.
and have some, I know part of their, and didn't one of them die? Didn't one of them take his
Yeah.
life? Right,
Ryan
one of them
Dunn
in the
died.
group, right?
He like smashed his Lambo or whatever.
And I
into a tree.
know they've all kind of gone through their addiction for a while,
Yeah.
so they've all had kind of issues like that. So do you have
Right.
any idea on the backstory on them? Like, are they like, was this like a
Well-
money grab because they maybe some of them might be hurting financially,
know.
or is this like a reunion? Oh, we're gonna do this one last time.
You got Johnny Knoxville, who's kind of was in the acting realm, like was in a few movies that were, you know, hit or miss. And then you had like, so Steve-O is like becoming a stand-up comedian and does tours and stuff. And I think he's like somewhat successful with that.
I've seen him on billboards.
Yeah. So he does, I think he does the Vegas a lot, but I don't really know a lot about the rest of the guys other than I'm sure that this was like one of those, the producer of the other movies was like, come on guys, and was like probably like hounding them about this and like throwing cash at them, and it was probably just like a total cash
Well,
grab.
I think it'd be tough when that's your identity, right? That's what you're known for. And then you get older and you start to feel irrelevant, and you're like, you want to bring it back.
So you want to feel relevant again? So
Yeah,
So you
bro.
staple your dick to a 2x4 or something?
Hey,
Oh
it's,
my God,
hey, it's
dude.
no different.
Worse stuff
it's,
than
It's
that,
no
dude.
different than when a boxer is in his,
Bro.
and, you know, he's done and he gets back in the ring, or a fighter. Think about it. you know?
Steve-O put a queen bee on his dick, and then like all of the bees swarmed around, and he had this like swarm just hanging off, getting stung like 100 times on his sack.
Wow.
I was like, like I can't even imagine,
Hold on.
dude.
I
Hold
mean,
on.
so I mean,
Did you get up and leave at any point? Or were you like,
I
son,
was just
we're,
like,
we're
this,
doing this?
dude. I was like this, and I was looking over at Ethan, and he's just like, like Oh my god,
Traumatized.
dude. Yeah, probably traumatized.
I made similar mistakes with my
he was
oldest
laughing.
because my oldest son, you're excited to do things with them.
Yep.
So you kind of do them a little too early.
I kind of jumped
You,
the gun.
you talked about
I
that
jumped
about
the gun.
about some of the.
Yeah, dude, I traumatized him. I'm like, we got to watch this, and it terrified him, and then he was scared to watch TV with me for like a year, dude.
Doug, when you
Like,
look up
sorry.
how much they made off those movies, I'm curious. Like, how much money do you? Because obviously, okay, when they first came up,
I mean, I love
well
it. That was
worth it,
hilarious.
right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you come from not very much, right, and then make potentially millions of dollars by doing.
Well, didn't
all
they
this.
start off making those skater?
Yeah, they did, like-
films, doing crazy stunts.
Yeah, like
Same
Bam,
stuff.
Margera, and all
Yeah,
them.
it started with a couple of them and some other guys doing some of the underground videos, which I'd seen those before, and then it turned into like but I mean, to get the fame and to get the money, I could see, like, you probably ask a lot of people, hey, if I paid you $5 million, would you do all this
Yeah.
crazy shit? They say yes. But if you already had the money,
Wow, the first one brought in $117 million. Second one, 102. I mean, and I'm sure that the budget wasn't massive,
Yeah.
for these. And that's not including how much they made with the show that was on MTV. These are the movies.
Yeah.
Because the show on MTV crushed
Oh yeah. it
when that
crushed.
thing came out.
now I wonder how much, because that's how much they made in the box office. So they didn't make that. So
Yeah,
I'm curious to
I wonder how much
what.
they took home.
Yeah, I'm curious to what each one of them were kind of getting paid. Like Johnny Knoxville, how much money he's probably making the most, right?
probably- yeah, he
he's the
probably
face
gets
of
the
it, so
most.
he probably made the
Dude,
most.
but give the guy credit. Like, he did the craziest stunts out of all of them, man. He was getting shot out of a cannon. I mean, he did the bull thing. He did what was the other one? He did the one where, like, basically, you know how you get like a big guy that it's like a blob. He like drops down, and he was sitting in this furniture store as dressed up as an old man.
Yeah.
And like this guy falls off the ladder like he's fixing something, and then boom, he hits him, and it goes all the way through the roof. And everybody that was working there were like, "Oh my god, what happened?" He just like went right through the roof.
Dude, I think it's one of those things where you see this a lot sometimes with athletes where they have like their golden years, and it's hard to let go of because that becomes that's a
I think
psychological
so
thing.
I think it's more like this, right? Well, we're totally speculating, right? No one knows for sure. I think it's more like so his net worth is $75 million, right? So he's made tens of millions of dollars, and I'm sure there was like a huge hockey stick like thing, right? He wasn't making any money, then all of a sudden the first one, second one, third.
Yeah.
And then you get 4 or 5 Lambos, 2 or 3 houses, like
Now you got to pay for all
property
the
taxes
amenities.
and
Yeah.
luxury tax and all that stuff starts
That's
coming
gotta
in.
factor in.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh shit, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, you're going like, oh wow, I love this lifestyle that I have, and I am definitely burning a hole pretty fast. And you got to wonder like, okay, I mean, maybe they have. I have no idea what their investments look like, but I would think it's more like that. It's like, oh shit, let's do another grab while we still can.
Yeah.
And
But what is it? I mean, they got to be in like their 50s, like Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O. I know they're older than
71.
us.
Is that what you just said, Doug?
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah,
he's 50. 50.
He's 50 years old.
doing that kind of shit. In
yeah, and you're
your
not
50s,
you're
dude?
not
It's
a
like,
normal 50-year-old.
Yeah, you don't.
You're like a 70-year-old at that point.
bro. They're
Your
like
brain and
breaking their
everything.
necks, and like they're in there like on the stretcher, just like. Yeah.
Bro, I roll an ankle now, and it's like a month recovery.
I know, dude. My back
Used to be out the
hurts.
next day playing basketball. The next
Not
day, you know
okay
what I'm
with
saying?
it.
Like, nowadays, you roll an ankle.
You
Like,
sit on the toilet too long. I'm like, what happened to my leg? I don't know what's going on. Listen, I think it's both. I think it's part of what you said, Adam, but I think the other part is that becomes a part
Well,
of your
sure.
identity.
So, I mean,
and then you're rich and you're sitting there and you're like what now? What? Like, what do I do? And then that's when you got all the
I see,
attention.
but I feel like if you got, I feel like if you got money coming in and you're able to do all those crazy things, then you're not letting that get to you. Maybe it's a combination of both, right? So the money's going really fast, and then in addition to that, that's your whole idea. You can't go do something else, really.
Well,
right? So you're not getting paid. And I wonder how many of them actually went out and tried to do other stuff to see if they could actually make a really.
They
good.
stayed in entertainment. A lot of them tried
Yeah.
entertainment, which I think the smartest thing to do is when you make that money is to learn how to invest it and stop trying to make that lightning happen twice.
Bro, there was just okay. So this one guy though, I like really felt bad for him. I feel like he got psychologically traumatized. He was like strapped into this chair, and they put honey all over him, and I think it's probably even in the preview with like salmon on him, and he thought like he was gonna get stung by bees, and so he's freaking out. He's like, oh no, we're not using bees. And then they lock the doors, and then all of a sudden they let a bear come in, and a fucking bear is eating off of him and like scratching him and like shoving his head down his crotch, eating stuff, and he's like, I just gotta eat my dick. And,
Bro,
and he,
the risk to do something like that.
dude, I don't care if the bear's tamed or what, dude. There's food all over him. Who knows? Like, he might just take a huge bite
On
and, like,
accident.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my!
And then
God.
right before he was gonna do that, the trainer came in and took him out, and then the guy's like shaking and like thought like more stuff was gonna happen to him.
Oh boy!
I'm like, oh my god,
What? Hey, it reminds me of this. It's like
it's so crazy.
It reminds me of this. It's like we all know people like this, right? And I even struggle with this. You work out for years and years and years. As you get older, you get in your 40s and your 50s, it's hard not to compare yourself to yourself when you were in your 20s or 30s or other 20 and 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
When the reality, and when you do that, you get into trouble. When I've done this already where I'm working out and I'm like, ooh, I feel strong. And I remember what I did when I was 32. And I'm like, can I beat that again? And it's like, what you have to do is compare yourself to, really it's the context, right? If you're 50 and you're fit, you compare yourself to other 50-year-olds. You're way better off than them, but don't compare yourself to it.
It makes me wonder what's going to happen to because really this whole influencer market is relatively new, right? It's maybe 10 years it's kind of been around. So it makes me really wonder what that's going to look like, 20 years down the road when a lot of these really popular kids on Instagram that got famous because of the way they look or the crazy shit they did. And then it's had all this money and had all this attention and kind of fame. And then I wonder if we're going to see if it's going to be even worse than what you see with traditional celebrities. If the crash is going to become more of them faster and harder, I think, than what you see before. I think the rise is faster, right?
Exactly. I think that's the factor, right? Like as quickly as you make your way to fame and fortune, the fall usually happens
even faster.
If you're valued for your beauty, wow, you better not identify with that because you're going to be screwed.
Well, I mean,
at some point,
it's even worse. The social media influencers and people that are quote unquote famous on Instagram, it's accepted that you all Photoshop and use editing and things like that. So it's talk about totally distorting. It's one thing to be famous and on camera and known for being this, beautiful star or whatever like that, but it's still pretty much you. These people are distorting the way they look to present themselves a certain way. I mean, come on.
This is why I was at the mall the other day with the kids, and there was a billboard. It was like a makeup store or whatever, and there was a billboard with Cher. How old is Cher? She's got to be 70s, 80, maybe.
She's taking the anti-aging serum.
And and there's a picture of her, and Jessica's like, "Oh my God, whatever." I'm like, I bet if we saw her in person, we would think she was a walking plastic corpse.
Yeah.
And
75.
75. You know what it is?
Now, in her defense, she's looked pretty good for a long time, right,
Yeah.
Doug? She's kept
She's
herself
done a
up.
good job.
I think it's it's probably catching up
but
a bit.
What it is that, she was known for her beauty. You identify with that. You don't want to age. You can't accept it.
I mean, would you still hit it or no?
What? What? No.
You just want to say it on air, dude.
I mean, I'd still hook up with
Yeah,
Jane Fonda.
come
Jane
on.
Fonda's 80 and she still looks hell hot.
I don't know.
Have you seen Jane Fonda?
Yeah.
Pull up
she's
Jane
back-
Fonda.
Jane
There
Fonda
you
though
go,
was.
Cher.
But Jane Fonda
Look at
was
it.
hold on a second.
You lie. You would still hit that.
No,
She's
I
kind of
would.
milfy,
Yes, you
dude.
would. She's totally got
That's
that.
not a MILF,
You
dude.
like hair like that.
That's a
It's
great
a gilf,
That's
whatever.
a GG. That's a G gilf. That's a
Hey,
great gilf.
It's a new
at
category.
Fonda.
for
You know what though? Fonda.
Maybe not so much that one.
Hold
but
on a
the
second.
rest of them, she looks
Fonda's a
like that, dude.
fitness fanatic
about
though. She's
that.
always stayed strong.
I think Cher is into fitness too. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't.
maybe.
Yeah. I think she's always been into fitness too.
I don't know. That's too big of an age gap for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. It's a little
No,
too
it's
much.
the granny.
Well, Doug, you would, right? It's only a
Danny.
couple years older.
I'm staying out of this conversation in the current political climate.
Doug likes it.
That's Doug's wheelhouse. No, dude. That's a very popular. I didn't know this. That's a very popular pornography category for a lot of men. Is granny? They call it granny porn. Women in that.
Really?
Yes. So
It makes me so curious.
Is it just 'cause they're
The fact
bored?
that gets recommended
Yeah.
in yours is weird to me.
does
'cause
get recommended.
I get the stepsister
Well, it's
one
like
all
you
the time.
can't just
That's all
They
I
do that
get.
to everybody,
Everybody
the
wants to bang their
stepsister thing.
stepsister, dude.
No, you know what it is? It's their taboo fantasy.
Messed
But
up.
the granny one, there was this. I don't remember who wrote it. There were these scientists who were writing about pornography searches and categories and why they exist and what makes them popular. And they said that one of the reasons why the granny porn one tends to be popular is a lot of boys grow up in these boarding schools and they get punished and by these older women. And you know the spanking thing?
Yeah.
It's because oftentimes they would get spanked by a ruler by
Now, is
this
that,
older
so
nun or
is
whatever.
it do you know the psychology behind that? Is that because you're growing up at an age when
Yes.
like you're masturbating like crazy and
It's like an imprint.
and exactly you get beat
You
and
become
then you find yourself masturbating 20 minutes later in the bathroom or some shit.
They call
or-
imprint. Justin's right. It's like you're sexually developing, and then during that time, your teacher, who's 50 or
also
whatever,
yelling at you and shit
yeah,
like
or
that.
whatever. And
That's why I'm
maybe
really into
fi-
car exhausts. Yeah.
What? What'd you say?
What?
I just figured I'd throw that out there.
Like,
Car exhaust.
you stick your dick in a tailpipe?
Hey,
What'd you do?
I was into old cars.
What?
What?
He's joking.
You get 8 years,
He's
bro.
like, hey,
I mean, I do like the smell of exhaust, so don't get me wrong.
yeah, it's like it's only certain cars.
Yeah.
It's not all of them.
As long as it's got flow masters, I'm straight.
Rev it up. No, stop.
Wow.
All right,
Wow.
let's talk about some bad news.
Oh, why? We were having fun.
I know. Did you guys hear the statistic about gyms?
I did. It was in my notes to talk about it today, dude. So U.S. 30% they say have been shut down permanently, done, never coming back. In Europe, they're saying 50%
of gyms.
What?
Permanently closed. Which, okay, there's a couple things here.
It's a tragedy.
One makes me very sad and upset because I don't think all those gyms would have been safe. I think the pandemic, some of them would have been shut down anyway, but definitely not 30%. That's a lot of that was caused by forced shutdowns or whatever. So that's number one, and that's very sad to me because what it does is it just gives a greater market share to big corporations and stuff like that. Two, it's a bit of an opportunity for the existing gyms because you have 30% of your competitors gone. So I wonder what the existing gyms, now that people are going back to working out, remember we speculated on this. I wonder if they're seeing a bigger surge.
I was talking to Adam not that long ago, like maybe just a couple weeks ago.
from UFC gyms?
Yeah, and they say they're doing really well. Nothing out of the crazy ordinary though. Like so, there's not like what you would think, right? You would think 30 to 50% of these gyms done, and then you would think that there would be a huge, especially right now.
Well, it's probably like back to normal from like because it was such low volume, low numbers.
My theory is that a good portion of that 30%, we're speculating, 25% maybe were not operating very well as it was, and that was just like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Sure.
That would be my guess. Would be, I mean,
at least half.
Yeah.
At least half of they were kind of sitting on that line.
Yeah, right.
And they couldn't survive a month.
And we know how many trainers and people try and start up that business, and then
it's a hard business to make money.
It is. Yeah. And then what percentage of those people just happen to start at a bad time? So maybe you could have been or would have been a good business operator, but you like literally the lockdowns happen 3 months into you opening your gym. Like, I don't care how good of an operator you are. Good luck if you just started your business and then you're being told you got to shut your doors down. So I would imagine there's a good percentage that were just poorly run. This was what exposed them. Then another percentage that were just getting started, so that of course that crippled them. They couldn't even get no momentum. That would be my guess. Or otherwise, we should see this. Like you should hear record numbers from Planet Fitness, numbers from UFC Lifetime.
Well, think of it this way: if these bigger gym companies like Planet Fitness and we'll see though. Planet Fitness is going to come out with their earnings, I think, after first quarter, right? But if they're doing good, let's say they're not doing like breaking records, but they're doing good. I would like to see what percentage of people are actually still going to gyms and working out. I bet you haven't reached what it used to be. I bet you there's still a lot of people.
So I would like to say
staying at
too,
home.
if you remember, that was our debate.
Yeah.
Before this all went down, I debated that it would go back to people going back to gyms.
I don't think it's fully done that. That's my opinion. I think we're still in the middle.
Well, I mean, of course it hasn't. I mean, I'm an example of that.
Yeah.
I'm the one who was saying that it was going to go back to gyms. I haven't been back to a gym. I've been training in my garage or here at the studio. So I definitely think we still have time for it to happen to go back that way. So yeah, I don't know how many people have made the change to at home training and are never going back.
Boy, that-
Dude, I just feel like all of the information we've been provided over the years about the benefits of exercise and dialing your nutrition, it's like we're starting all the way over from scratch because of this. It's like we just decided to throw all that out and wait a minute, wasn't there benefit to exercise and nutrition, and why did we we're going all the way back, and we're going to have to build up like from scratch.
I mean, the truth though, it's always been like this though, right? Like, I mean, we know like all the things that are a lot of the health issues that we deal with in America right now, a good percentage of them could have been handled preventative by
most of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So COVID just really highlighted that. Maybe it made people that maybe we're less aware, more aware, but this has been our battle for 20 years.
You know what the problem is? Yeah. I'll tell you right now, 100% what the problem was. It was that the fitness industry doesn't have a very powerful lobby. It's a fact. If they had a good lobby,
they weren't represented well at all.
No, they don't have a lobby. Look, in California, gyms were shut down. Hollywood was allowed to operate. Hollywood has lots of power.
Liquor stores
were still
Weed
open.
dispensaries.
Yeah, I mean, there were small businesses,
strip clubs.
There were small restaurants. This is true
keep
now.
Going.
Yeah.
In LA, there were literally small restaurants shut down, forced to shut down in their parking lots. Movie sets set up with lots of people working because why? The Hollywood and that industry has a large lobby. So what happens is the lobbyists go to Congress or go to the representatives and say, hey, you got to keep us up or whatever, and then they make special arrangements. Gyms don't have that. Gyms are like, shut them down, and we're not going to pay any political price, for shutting them down. I'll tell you what, I don't know how because I owned a gym, right? Before Mind Pump, that's what I did. I don't know how I would have been bad, dude.
Online coaching. Coaching.
Yeah, well, that and I would have had a speakeasy. I would have been really pissed off.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you forced me to shut down. Like, are you kidding me?
But the move was to go. The move would be to go online coaching. I mean, we were saying that before any of this stuff.
Yeah, we already moved in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, half of why we're here and doing what we're doing is you kind of saw the writing on the wall that everything was moving in this direction, and we had been telling our audience well before COVID came around that you should be building somewhat of an online presence. Even if you are an in-person trainer, you have your own gym, brick and mortar, you should build an online presence to complement that because that's the future of how things are going.
Yeah,
so.
the fastest growing segment of the personal trainer, I guess you could put it, market is online coaching.
Yep.
By far.
Oh yeah, Jason's getting flooded right now.
Yeah,
I was talking.
He
to him.
must be. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I see a bunch of new faces every time I'm on those calls.
Yeah. Right now, NCI is doing 50% off their enrollment. By the way,
they are.
Yeah. So I talked to him, and he's like, "Oh, we're exploding, and we're not trying to slow down. We're going to certify and get as many coaches out there, good coaches, as possible." So they're still doing the 50% off enrollment or whatever.
Yeah, you and I have a call tonight with them, don't we?
We do, but it's blowing up because it's. The pandemic really put more. It was already growing, by the way. Before the pandemic, it was the fastest growing segment of personal training because you could reach more people. It's the capital required to start, and the liabilities way smaller. I just had a conversation with my cousin, she's a trainer. She's training lots of clients. Sent me a text about opening her own place, and I said, "You sure you want to do that? There's a lot of capital. It costs you a lot of money to start it." Then you're on the hook for huge liability. And then if you want to scale, you got to repeat that again. If you do it online, I mean, it's still a business. You still have to build it, but your capital's low. You don't have any liability. And then scalability is infinite, essentially.
Scalability is great, but also there is a cap to it. So, there was another reserve was like, well, isn't the market flooded now? No, there can't be enough.
No.
There cannot be enough, especially with all these closed gyms. We need as many people out there in force as possible to help, get people back on track.
There's always, in my opinion, there's always going to be room for good coaches and good trainers.
Yep.
I mean, sure, it's flooded with a bunch of shit butts. I mean, if you're going to
stand out
beacon. I love that word.
And I think that, I do think that the old 80-20 rule will remain true. 80% of the people will only make 20% of the money. 20% of the people will make 80% of the money.
Yeah, but that percentage that total pie is going to grow.
That's right.
So 20% is going to represent a lot more.
That's right. And we're seeing that. And I do think what you said was true. What you called not that long ago about the. Because the CDC is starting to come out and kind of recant some of the things we were saying, and now we're changing in the direction of how important it is to be health and to not be obese with COVID.
A lot of fear motivated people.
Yeah,
now.
so now you're going to get a wave of people that may not have been gym goers before, but now feel like, oh my God, because the CDC says it and that we're pushing people in this direction. So I mean, that's going to bring a whole new wave of people into the space, I think.
Totally. All right, so I had this good conversation with my wife yesterday. So remember how I told you guys I went out and finally invested in a really nice mattress for the first time in my life? Like really nice. So we slept on it last night. It was freaking amazing. But we were talking about, the mattress market and how you have these mattresses that are like, and there no affiliation to any of these companies, but you have mattresses that are like, oh, it's all organic or no synthetic this or whatever, right? And so she's like, why did we choose like a regular, really nice bed versus like something like that? And I said, if you actually look, and this is actually a good conversation, if you look at all the factors that affect your health, and I look at like organic materials versus maybe inorganic materials, and I consider, okay, the inorganic materials may put off a little bit of this chemical or whatever,
toxic chemical.
Yeah, and it's almost negligible, but it's more than like, let's say,
Very
a bed
small.
that's totally organic. Does that offset the incredible sleep I'm going to get with a way more? Because they're engineered. This is an engineered
not
bed
only
to
that,
make you
but
sleep really good.
I would also make the case or argument that the stuff that you're washing your sheets in has a more of an impact than the mattress.
It does.
So
it does.
You know what I'm saying? So if you go out and go get
'cause the
yourself
sheets,
organic avocado bed or
layer
something,
there.
but then you're washing with fucking Tide. Like you know what I'm saying?
My bed's made of natural rocks. And this is a good conversation because you see a lot of people do this with nutrition. They're like, everything's organic, everything's non-GMO, but you're eating way too much, and a lot of it's garbage.
Yeah.
Calories at the top, right? If your calories are too high, it could be all the organic, whatever you want, and you're going to have problems. So let's focus on that first. Then let's look at your proteins and fats, and then let's look at carbohydrates, and then we can start to go down the checklist. And when it comes to sleep, your quality of sleep has such a massive impact on your health that, okay, fine, you get, 0.1% less chemicals from your organic bed or whatever. But if your sleep is worse, then it doesn't matter because the sleep actually makes a bigger impact.
As long as it's not lined with asbestos, you're good.
Do they have any of those beds
Fireproof
left?
I don't know. They probably did in the 70s.
Yeah, it's all part of that. Like it's all, so, I have the sleep routine now. So I do the Felix Gray glasses before I go to bed, and I make sure to, I don't eat within a certain period of time or whatever. This was the last missing piece. Now I got the super nice mattress, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. I know, I feel like an old guy, right?
No, yeah.
Is it time for bed?
Well, before we went out, so this weekend we went to dinner on Friday, and I saw Jason ahead of time. I met up with him before you got there, and I was like, hey, you gotta ask. I don't think he asked you, because I was like, you have to ask Sal about his bed. I said he came up to me. I said the other day, he's so proud of himself because he spent a couple bucks on a bed for the first time ever. I was like, don't ruin his day and tell him it's not that expensive, because those things get really expensive.
Yeah,
he's like, I asked him how did he feel, and he says, oh my God, it was life changing. I'm like, now you get it, bro. You pay for what you get, especially with something like that, man.
I know.
I'll tell you what though, I was really disappointed in the chef experience we had.
Yeah, so explain. So you guys is a date thing for cooking. And
So
It was
we-
dumb.
It
was cool to see everybody. That's about it.
So we
I'm
went.
glad
so
I wasn't invited.
So we, yeah, I didn't organize.
appreciate that,
I
you
was
guys.
We thought about inviting you. We're like,
So John and Jen, who are friends of Katrina and I, they put together this dinner night, and Jason and his wife came, Sal and Jessica and me and Katrina. And you're in this, like, we were really excited about it. It sounded really cool, right? Everybody goes to this like little private chef area, and there's like 16 total people.
it's at the Sur La Table.
Yeah,
In those
and
places.
you don't. Yeah. Well, so everybody was like
foreign word,
pretty
I don't know what
excited to go do it, and if I wasn't with the group, I would have left. That's how like disappointed I was. I was disappointed in the food. I was really disappointed in the chef. Like, terrible personality. Like, Jason made the night. Like, Jay, right? Like,
Oh, he's great, man.
Right,
He's
he
hilarious.
can carry a room
Yeah.
and is hilarious. And he was cooking right next to the chef, so he was fucking with them the whole time. Like, that's how Jason is. Like, he knows the guy's gonna be like a sourpuss.
He's
and-
like entertaining.
yeah. So I'm just gonna have fun with this guy. So he was like poking at him the whole time and making jokes and goofing off. And I mean, he made the night entertaining and worth being there. But the whole experience, and I've had multiple people tell me like, "Oh my God, you're gonna love it! So amazing!" It was terrible.
No, it wasn't that great.
I would not do it.
Literally, we're supposed. The first dish was scallops with this like cream sauce or whatever. And I swear to God, we got like 4 scallops each. and that was
That's
it.
it?
Yeah. And then we go to make the risotto, and then we're gonna make the risotto, and it's literally a pound of rice, and we're like, the ratio here is off.
Yes.
Like, I can see how you guys make your margins.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, what a hustle. I mean, you got 16 people. With 16 people there, I bet we had 2 pounds of scallops. Maybe.
Yeah.
Weak.
Total.
Yeah, total
crazy.
for like 16 people.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, probably
So
a
little
20-pound
appetizer.
bag of risotto. I mean, literally, it was like, that's all what we threw away a pan like this deep of risotto afterwards because that's all it pretty much was. And then you had a dessert that was a really good dessert, this pear dessert. But I mean, it maybe cost them $200 worth of food, maybe. And they're charging $89 a head to be in there.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah. Plus, we were we were in a room because it was a class, right? So it was us, and then there was other people in there.
Yeah.
And the other people were boring as hell too. They didn't say a damn word.
Oh, lame.
Everybody just following the instruction. Blah blah blah. I'm like, listen, are you guys all here to be chefs? We're all here to have a good time and enjoy. What we're like, why are you guys sitting here acting like you're taking notes and like, let's enjoy it? No, it was,
Come on, nerds.
No, it was
Have some fun.
just
I would have said it.
No, it was definitely one of those things that I'm sure that none of us. I mean, I want to do the one online where you can do it at your house, right? I've seen people do that where you do like a virtual chef at your house.
Oh yeah, and we couldn't drink.
well, yeah, they advertised it.
No,
Check this
yeah,
out.
this is
They
the best part.
advertised
I'm out,
it
dude.
as scallops, rigatoni, and
No, risotto.
Risotto, sorry, scallops, risotto. It was supposed to be chocolate cake, by the way. Chocolate cake and wine.
And wine.
So we thought we all
Minus
get there,
wine?
nobody drinks, everybody gets like, oh, this, and then when we find out it's going to be dry as fuck, everyone's like, that's okay. Wait till the wine comes. We're just going to get fucked up and just have a
Yeah.
good time with
Yeah.
all of our friends.
Right.
And like
We're
everyone's
like, no, you can't drink the wine because we don't have a liquor license, but we're using the wine to cook with.
Yeah, the
Like
wine.
you tricked us. You.
The wine is so you can cook with it. It's
that's
not you don't
dirty.
you don't get to do. There's no alcohol, only water. I was so pissed. So it reminded me. So when I was 17, I'll never forget this. When I was 17 years old, I think I've told this story. Well, not this part of the story, but I told you guys that I got 4 tickets in a year. And so the third ticket, I went to go fight in court so I wouldn't lose my license. I also did the traffic school.
Yeah.
So when I went to the traffic school, it was the first time I've ever been traffic school. I'm only 17 years old, and my buddy and I both were going together. And he hits me up. He's like, bro, check this out. I found this place. It's pizza, comedy, and traffic school.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, seriously, this is
Done.
awesome. Done. And I paid like an extra $30 than like the normal price for traffic school or whatever that, because it was going to be pizza, comedy, and fun. And we get there, it was
like Little Caesars.
bro, it was, well, yeah, they serve pizza at lunch, but the whole pizza comedy, and it was a joke. It's not like really anything. They just all name them different things, and there was no comedy at
No,
all.
it was the teacher making.
Oh, yeah. And,
Dry
and
jokes.
I remember
Dad
asking, where's the
jokes.
comedy? And he made like some bullshit knock joke. It was, the guy was,
Wow.
yeah, it was awful. 8 hours of sitting in there. So pissed. I felt hustled like that when we went to this
Yeah.
thing. That's how I
False
felt about it.
advertisement.
ridiculous. You can only cook with the wine. I'm like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. Anyway, all right, we got to talk about all the controversy that's going on right now with Joe Rogan.
Oh man.
Oh,
it's getting,
boy.
it's getting
Now,
heated.
now I don't know if we said this on the show. We might have, but when I know we said this off air, but we distinctly had a discussion where we were talking about Rogan and how he's going to start getting targeted politically because he doesn't fit in a box.
Right.
He's got a huge reach.
Which is dangerous to establish.
Yes, and
media.
that's exactly now what's happening. If you watch what's happening, there's definitely the Twitter mob cancel culture thing that happens, but this is not that. This is a coordinated political attack to. And here's what do you guys? By the way, I want to ask you guys, what do you think the goal is? Do you guys think the goal is to get him canceled?
Of course.
Yeah, I'll
I mean, at the bare minimum, discredit the stuff that he's putting
that's
out.
what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's they want to. I mean, it's a power grab. It's to show. It's to flex and show that
Yes.
ultimately, we have the last say.
I don't think it's to cancel him. If that happened, that's cool, but I don't think that's the goal because, in fact, Rumble just came out and offered him $100 million for 4 years.
Now that's going viral, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Does that even warrant a conversation? That ain't happening. That can't happen.
That'll happen if he's in a contract with Spotify,
Right.
but if Spotify kicks him off,
so that's the only
He's
way.
open.
Spotify so far supporting him.
Yeah, Spotify's already came out. The CEO did a
Yeah, I
statement
know.
yesterday. So the CEO came out.
by the
and
way,
said,
it's not stopping. We'll see how they handle the pressure because this is not stopping.
Well, so now what's interesting to me? Here's what I always when it comes down to money. Okay, and here's what's interesting. Since Spotify has signed Joe, they went from 60 to 60 billion down to 30 billion.
Yeah.
When that Neil Young debacle happened, they lost $4 billion.
Wow.
How is that possible?
Isn't that crazy?
Now, is that
Because
four-
I know there's a few artists. It wasn't just Neil Young that dropped off. So
That's right.
it was like some kind of snowball.
Hold on,
effect
is
with
this
that.
$4 billion in market share?
So I don't know how.
I think that's what it is.
I don't know, but they went
Let me
from
see.
60
in
billion
terms of shareholders?
down to 30 billion.
Just their stock price.
And then they lost 4 billion after the
It's their stock price. Yeah, their stock price now is at 171, which is kind of a low. Just to give you an example, back in November, it got as high as 300.
Yeah, I bought it
in the
really
200s.
high.
Yeah, so I think
Another
it's
one of my bad
no.
buys.
So he's. I don't think it's to cancel him. I think they know they can't necessarily cancel him because he has such a massive following.
They're sure the hell going to try though.
Well,
Well, isn't it strange? Like they bought Gimlet Media and somebody else for like way more money than they acquired Joe for. Like in terms
Well,
of
Gimlet
that.
Media has got a bunch of things underneath
Right,
it, right? So it's
yeah.
like-
so like they bought networks, but there was a couple other like shows that they paid a substantial amount more.
Yeah,
I was
no-
surprised by that.
No, the goal is not to get him canceled. The goal is to delegitimize him completely.
Yeah.
If they can, because his platform has so much
I
power.
mean, isn't the same? I mean, you're saying that, but isn't the same strategy?
I think
how's the
that-
strategy different?
because they know that he's not going to get canceled.
I
When
know,
you're
but
that-
how is the strategy different? What would you do differently if you were trying to cancel them?
what would you be trying to do differently?
Yeah. So you're saying you're
Oh, I
saying
think
you're
that-
making a statement that they're not trying to cancel.
Oh,
They're just
what
trying
I-
to discredit him. And what I'm saying it's the same thing because what would they do different if they were trying to
My
cancel?
point is, I don't think it would be anything different. My point
Yeah,
is,
yeah, it's
I
the
think
same
that they're
thing.
sitting back and they're saying, we can't cancel him. He's too big. He's got too big of an audience. If we get him kicked off Spotify, someone else is going to pick him up. I think that the whole plan was we need to delegitimize him as much as
They're just gonna
possible.
keep attacking his character like from every angle.
Yes, to the point where he's like Alex Jones. Now, if you ever go on Joe Rogan, you're a fraud, or why would you go on the show?
I mean, so at what point? So
can
is,
see that.
is your theory that it's never going to stop? It's just going to keep happening? Because once they go through, like after they make him look sexist, racist, a
Homophobic,
conspiracy guy, transphobic. I mean, once they go down the gauntlet of things and put together all of these clips and cherry pick stuff to make him seem even worse, what happens after that? When
Well,
he doesn't
where's it
get
at
canceled,
now, right? So they started out with COVID misinformation. That was the big one. That didn't really stick, and then it moved on to like sexism, and now it's moved to racism.
It first started happening when he moved to Texas, started talking about why he moved to Texas, why California is whatever. He started to not sound like they wanted him to. The COVID stuff really pushed their buttons. And again, they're trying to delegitimize him. And here's what'll happen. By the way, some of some of the organization behind what's happening has been linked to a Democratic super PAC. I think that these midterms are coming up. This is the pressure. This is where they're going to be all over him. When midterms are over, they're going to leave him alone until it's ready to do it again. He poses a threat, and they want to delegitimize him so he no longer poses a threat.
so you think it's 100% politically motivated?
100%. Nobody gives a shit that he said the N-word a bunch of times on his podcast.
Oh, I mean,
on old shows.
Sure,
and-
you do. If you're a
it
Twitter.
upset a few of my friends, but yeah.
No,
if
no, no,
you're
no.
a
What I mean
woke
is-
Twitter mob guys. I mean, sure.
No, what I mean is the people who put that together don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They
No, I
don't care.
understand that.
That's just their favorite card to pull. This is a very powerful political. They've weaponized.
Well, you've seen that happen to other people, like celebrities, as examples of taking things out of context.
Nobody
and
is
slicing
safe.
it all
Nobody
together.
is safe.
Nobody's safe.
Yeah.
Everything is recorded. Everything you say, everything you do, context changes. What's acceptable 1 minute changes to what's acceptable another time. And it's nobody's safe. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson came out and defended him, but then he apologized, which now he's a target for other people.
Okay, so
and they found videos of him doing
My
shit.
question is this then too: do you think so? Like we've seen this from the left's perspective, but from the right perspective, do you see the right coming in hard now with like going after the mudslinging, the dirt, and like splicing clips together to throw?
They're
against-
just as guilty. What we just
Yeah,
saw a clip
like-
on.
the CNN and like
did
all
that-
this
they
that
did
came
such a-
out with their hosts, in sexual misconduct.
Yeah. The right did it with Chamath.
That's right,
from All
PragerU. That's
In.
exactly what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did it too.
They took
Right.
his statement out of context, and
It's just because, like, it's gonna get insane. This cancel like mudslinging. That's gonna
nobody's safe. It's going to self-destruct.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's going to blow up in all their face. I think it's going to come to a point where people don't care anymore. It's like going to become white noise, dude. You're calling racist, sexist. You're calling that out so much, both left and right, and everybody's pointing fingers. Nobody is safe. If you're older than
like
35 years old, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Or
if
you cried wolf.
If you've been in media, right? So if you've been on any social platform or on television, or people have been paying attention to you for any longer than the last 5 years or more, and you're older than 35, you're fucked.
Yep.
Yeah.
You for sure have said something that's inappropriate or text something that isn't right. Like, it's like, oh my, it's so, and I think after enough, maybe after enough of these people that we hold up on pedestal, maybe after enough of them fall from grace, maybe then will everybody be like, well, fuck, Jesus, that's my favorite guy, that's my favorite girl, and they're racist, now they're sexist.
What makes me
Well,
mad
I've
is-
seen cuts of Biden saying worse.
in
I
Congress.
can't believe he gets a pass. dude.
Well, it's selective outrage,
but
bro.
that's the thing. It's like you got to look at it like the hypocrisy of it all. It's
Of
like,
course.
come on.
It's politics is not logic. It's about how you can manipulate people to feel a particular way for a period of time. Because the goal is to
I just hate the
delegitimize.
strategy.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. He's not really getting away with it either, because the fact that you know about it is because people on the right have been pushing that agenda.
Right.
So he's not.
Yeah,
I mean, so you can make the same case that Trump got away with it too, but then the people on the left were picking apart all
Okay,
his stuff. So
okay.
so both sides are doing this.
You're right. Here's the goal. Okay, here's the
And
idea.
it's just
right?
ramping up. Is
Here's
what
the
I'm
idea.
seeing.
You know how they have when they have an election? There's what's known as the October. Is it the October surprise? I think it's the October surprise.
That's what you told me.
Yeah, and it's always like something that they'll drop in October because they know it sticks long enough till the election happens. Because here's what happens: shit blows over. So they'll do something to hammer a politician, but if they do it too early, it loses its power, and you see this bounce up. So they're going to hammer Rogan, and they're going to keep hammering him until the midterms happen. After that, they're not going to worry about him too much unless he makes a lot of noise. They're not going to worry too much about him. Now, the interesting thing is they might just have, and I don't know, we'll see what they pull up because they can be very cunning and dirty, but they might just have bit off more than they can chew because there's a lot of people supporting Rogan, a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And it might just backfire to the point where it makes him more.
Well,
it
it's
makes him
interesting
stronger.
because was it Dave Portnoy, the
Yeah.
Barstool? Yeah, so he was tracing back to see, who was mainly responsible for cutting up these videos and kind of pushing that out there. And I think like he's confident he found like the three guys that were.
Well, yeah, because they came
responsible.
after him too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he traced it back to the same people that were basically coming after him, and it sounds like it's a group of people that are doing it.
Yeah. Speaking of dirty stuff, did you guys see what GoFundMe did with all the money raised for the
So
Canadian
explain what
truckers?
happened. They got up to a
Does it make
ridiculous amount of
10
money.
You want to make me angry
over
This
that.
is
I heard it
gonna
was
make
like
me
12.
They got a ton of money. GoFundMe froze it and then wouldn't give them money and initially said, we can't verify it's going to the right people, so we're going to give it to other charities, which everybody's like, excuse me?
What?
Yeah. And then they said, never mind, we're going to refund people. Like, you want to talk about some insanity there. Like, that's like prime meat for
It's theft.
conspiracy theorists. Oh,
It's
terrible.
theft. You can't, you can't reallocate somebody's money that they spent, to go to a very specific
Now,
place.
who was it supposed to go to? Does anyone have
The
the
truckers.
answer?
It
Well,
was
I mean, yeah, but that's so vague, bro.
Well,
You can't-
well,
so I
yeah,
mean, that would make
right.
their point fair.
No, I think that's not the point. Okay, the point is that they did not do this. Okay, when the BLM thing was happening, nobody knew what the hell's going on. Nobody knew, and we know now a lot of money went to a lot of bad places.
Yeah,
into
but,
shit.
but BLM has a actual organization that you can.
They have an
donate directly
organization
to.
also.
The truckers do.
Yes, they do.
Oh, okay, so was it
Yeah.
connected to that GoFundMe?
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
it
Well,
was.
then
But
that was the question I was asking.
Yeah,
You didn't answer.
Yeah,
You guys
but they now are like, we're refunding people. It's very interesting and strange how, and I know, I mean, the conspiracy is like that because they're anti-mandate, because politically this does not look very good for Justin Trudeau and some of their leaders.
I heard it's like one of the
it looks
largest protests we've ever seen
terrible
before.
for him. Dude, hiding the whole time, not even addressing what was happening in this country.
Yeah, huge. But that's crazy. I can't believe that they did that. I hope they have a really good reason because that's a lawsuit. That's a massive lawsuit.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Are you guys familiar with since we're talking about crazy shit? Are you guys familiar with what's called an NFT rug pull?
A what?
Yeah.
No.
Rug
Fucking
pull?
crazy. Yeah. You know me going down like the NFT rabbit hole?
What?
You know-
What? Okay,
So-
I'm
you
in
know what it is?
catfish? Tell
Ever
me.
since I started talking about NFTs, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this because I know you don't talk about it as much as I do or post about it, but it's like my new favorite thing to like fucking piss off like a community of people that like if you're like part of that community, like you're hardcore
yeah.
about it, like you're
You're wrapped up in it, man.
yes, you
I
are.
saw like Jimmy what's in Fallon and like Paris Hilton showing their like ape.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh God, like that's total. I'm like, I'm out. I'm not even interested in the NFT thing.
So I was listening to this interview. Remember that guy? I want to say Jake Tran. I think is his name. I introduced you guys. He did an interview on this kid that was breaking down these NFT rug pulls. And he says, if you're good, you can do 2 of these a month. So every 2 weeks, where these people, they'll buy like an NFT that's well known and really expensive. So they're investing like $250,000 sometimes, or $100,000 on like this image. So people know like, oh shit, this person has got clout or they got money. And because all this NFT stuff is on blockchain and you can use that as an image, it protects the people, and everyone's okay with that, because that's one of the best parts about it, is that you don't know who everyone is. Well, the problem with that is you've got these NFT rug pulls that are happening where these people will buy like an expensive NFT, they'll put that as their profile, they'll build Twitter, they'll build a Discord, they'll build all this stuff like that. They'll copy like a trending, like let's say Bored Ape Yacht Club or whatever, Bored Yacht. I don't know if I'm saying that right. You guys know what I mean, right? That like their whole like blueprint on how they're making money, and they'll basically copy and paste like a similar like, formula of what we're going to do, what we're going to give our people, hype up the Discord, get in there and get in the community and tell them what's coming and release a bunch of this shit. And they make fucking 10, 15 million real quick, and then boop, just delete and disappear.
It's like
and then fire up another one fucking 2 weeks later.
It's like a stock pump and dump.
Bro,
dude.
yes.
That's like a pump and dump.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's getting real popular for people to do this.
It's not regulated. It's like in the trading world.
You had to know that was coming.
In the trading world, this is old school. You would buy shitty, worthless stock, and then you would pump it up to a bunch of people, drive the shares up, and then sell your bit, make your money.
Now the thing that's crazy though, and where it's different than pump and dump, it's a lot easier to track the people that are involved that were doing that, where this is all protected on the blockchain. So these people go in, create this whole thing on the blockchain, and they walk away with all this money. Ain't nobody do nothing about it, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, did
That's
you hear North Korea has these hackers or whatever that apparently have hacked and stole a bunch of crypto money to fund their like nuclear program? Have you heard of this?
No.
Yeah. Apparently they're I got to read
So
this.
they can hack now, and
Well, bro,
they've proven that already.
it's not it's
problematic.
It's not the blockchain. It's like the wallets and stuff that are
right,
open.
That's the
like
thing
cash.
that Snowden said. That was why he came out and made that statement about why he's
That's
like,
what I was worried about the whole time.
until the wallets are as safe as the actual cryptocurrency, then it doesn't make any sense.
Right here, this is a UN report. Missile program funded through stolen crypto. So the North Korean cyber attacks have stolen millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency to fund the country's missile programs. So people who say you can't steal it, the weak link is not the blockchain, but rather the way people store their crypto and stuff. And apparently this is from the UN. North Korean hackers did this to fund their missiles. So I know this whole thing's interesting.
It's getting crazier and crazier.
I'm wondering where it's going to be in just like 5 years from now. Like, is it going to? I mean, are we going to see this massive correction, and we're going to see just a lot of this stuff?
We're already seeing a correction. Crypto's already gone down quite a bit, but I think you're going to see there's value to it, but it's so bubbly and frothy and full of
It'll
just
stick.
hype.
There'll just be like one
Of course,
or two
it's
like the
options.
dot-com
the
bust.
technology's brilliant. I mean, I don't know where you guys are. Like, so I pay attention to all this. Like the way it's going to be for cars, a watch. I mean, that's going to be a very
tickets to a show.
Yeah, it's going to be a very powerful tool in the future. It will be how we do things. I mean, it's a very nice way to protect yourself when you buy something of great value. You now have like somebody else try and steal it, resell it, or fix it or work on it. Like that'll come up right away it's somebody else's. It'll be easy to trace and track. So there's tremendous value in this technology. It ain't going away. I 100% stand by it. But boy, is there going to be a lot of scams on the way
of
there.
shenanigans right now to weave through.
Yeah, the dot-com bust was like that, right? It's like, oh my God, the internet's going to change the world. And it did. Yeah. But you had so much hype and excitement and, again, that frothiness around it that any dot-com anything was valued so much. And then you had a crash, which washed out a ton of these companies. So I think it'll be something similar, in my opinion. Hey, real quick, look, if you like soda but hate the sugar and the calories, go try Olipop. Now, Olipop, nothing artificial. So everything in there is real. It's very low calorie, I believe like 30 calories per can, but they're actually good for your gut health. These are actually sodas designed to feed good bacteria and reduce inflammation in the gut. They're very gut friendly, very, very low in calorie, all natural. I love them, and they have flavors that are like the sodas you drank when you were a kid. So if you're interested, head over to mindpumppartners.com, click on Olipop, and then the code for the discount is MindPump. Go check them out. All right, here comes the rest of the show.
Our first caller is Kara from Colorado.
Kara, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hey, Sal. Hey, guys. Before I get going, I just wanted to say, so I was a trainer from 2012 to 2015, and I loved the industry. I did some fitness shows at the time, and I just didn't see an out, so I kind of stopped everything, qualified for nationals in bikini, and stopped from there. Did my own thing for 5 years or so. 2020 said enough is enough. I went back to my coaching business, and in November I started training again, probably because of you guys, because I found your podcast maybe in April, and I just want to thank you for giving language to all the bullshit in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I just really resonate to what y'all say more than anyone else. And I'm just so appreciative. So I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you for those
Awesome.
words.
Thanks.
Cool. So yeah, my question that I asked was, I heard you, Sal, talk about Piracetam and choline in an episode pretty early on, an earlier episode. And I was just wondering, so I got some choline, and it's really been helping with my brain fog as I'm coming off of having COVID. So I'm wondering if there's a way to go about looking up nootropics. And I don't really know much about nootropics drugs, but I like supplements. I like playing around with supplements, and I'm just interested in holistic health. And yeah.
Cool. No, it's a good question. So Piracetam is a drug from the Racetam categories of drugs. So it's actually a synthetic product. It's a prescription in some countries, but here in the U.S., it's like a gray market. So it's not really regulated. You could buy it over the counter. And it's loosely, I guess, categorized as a nootropic. So in some studies, it's been shown to improve things like verbal fluency in people who have noticed declining verbal fluency, or memory recall in people with, who have like early stages of maybe dementia and stuff like that. So a lot of people have messed around with these substances to see if it's done anything for them. I'm one of those people. I've messed around, I make it's not a mystery that I like to mess around with compounds and supplements and stuff to kind of see what happens. Now, here's a deal with Piracetam. This is my personal experience, and then also the experience that I've had, having other people try it. For me, it's got a bit of a racy feel. I notice maybe an improvement in some things, but I also notice that I crash when it kind of wears off and don't feel so good. So this is why I've never really used. And I've tried lots of the Racetam molecules. There's Aniracetam. There's lots of different, Oxiracetam, I believe, is another one. There's lots of different types, and they're all supposed to be a little different. I wasn't really a huge fan. I gave some to Adam, Justin, and Doug for fun, just to see what would happen. And they all had headaches and didn't feel good from them at all. Choline is a natural compound, probably should be labeled essential. It's not currently labeled essential, but I think it probably should be. You find it in certain foods like egg yolks. And if it's low, supplementing with it can help with, kind of cognitive performance. So choline's pretty good. Caffeine can help some people if they're fatigued. But I will say this, when it comes to substances and supplements to help with, I guess, mental acuity or to help with brain fog, they pale in comparison to, and I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, they pale in comparison to things like diet, exercise, stress management, and sleep. They really don't. They're really poor substitutes. Like if you have poor sleep, caffeine can help, but it doesn't do at all what good sleep would do for all of those things. And so, keep that in mind. But as far as the Racetam drugs are concerned, I'm not really a big fan. That's why I talked about them once, and then I really haven't really brought them up except for maybe to talk about kind of that gray market part of the supplement industry that I think is interesting, but I don't think that they're really great for what people say they're for.
So what do you think? Because I didn't have a good experience with these at all. What are some recommendations though that you would give her for like natural nootropics, or are those considered nootropics because they're natural?
Like lion's mane.
Yeah. What are some natural substances that she could take instead of that if she wanted?
The thing with the word nootropic, if you look up what it's supposed to mean, it literally means a substance that upon taking will improve cognitive performance. Now, technically, like I mentioned caffeine, technically caffeine is not a nootropic. However, the reason why I put caffeine in that category is if you're fatigued, your mental performance will drop. Taking caffeine does improve mental performance in that particular context. So that's why I like to put that there. Some people would put drugs like Adderall or Ritalin in that category. However, there's interesting studies that show that they don't really improve cognitive performance. They just make people more interested in the boring shit that they don't want to be interested in. And so that makes people feel like they're smarter when they take them.
Now, exogenous ketones, would that be a classification of nootropic? Because I know it does help, like, my clarity in terms of my sharpness and memory recall.
You know what's weird about that? So going into ketosis for some people makes a big difference. I would imagine it's probably people who either A, have issues with blood sugar or insulin, like Alzheimer's is like type 3 diabetes, some people will call it, or you're eliminating lots of food intolerances, and so you feel less inflamed, less bloated, a little bit sharper from doing so. You can experiment with that, Kara. You can go on a ketogenic diet. Just make sure you get adequate sodium. I want to say that. A lot of people will go ketogenic, feel like garbage, and think they call it the keto flu. Oh my God, I feel... typically, it's when you go on a ketogenic diet, you drop carbohydrates, you're going to lose a lot of water. And when you lose a lot of water, you need a lot more sodium. And so, like we work with a company called LMNT. It's a great product if you want to drink something that tastes good with salt. Otherwise, salt the shit out of your food, add a little salt to your water. That usually makes up the difference. But also, you go on a ketogenic diet, you can expect some performance drops in strength. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Like you're not going to be as strong, not have much stamina and endurance, but you may feel sharper doing something like that. Fasting can do that really quick. Like if you did a 24-hour fast, you may notice, oh my God, I feel sharper.
What is it in the Organifi Pure that makes me feel that way?
So products like that are more like, you're looking at, I'm glad you said that because I was going to go there and I totally forgot. There are compounds that help with brain health. So like lion's mane, for example, is one of those things. So if you took lion's mane, you might not know, you're probably not going to notice anything until you take it for 2 or 3 weeks, right? And then what they'll show is it's improving brain health a little bit over time. Things that help with your gut. So like Organifi's Pure's got certain compounds that'll do that. That's why when you take it,
digestive enzymes in there too, right?
A little bit, yeah. So that's why when you take it over time, you start to kind of notice like, oh, I feel kind of good.
Well, what I like about it is it's more natural ingredients in terms of like what they use. So for me, like it didn't have that. I don't know if it's because of the artificial blend that you get from the racetams, but that's what really gave me a headache.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't get a headache from this, and it does over time. It really does help with your memory and recall.
It does. It's just one of those. You know what it is? Okay, if you take something, this is a general rule. If you take something that you feel right away, you can almost always bet that you're going to get this adaptation response in the body and the brain where it starts to downregulate receptors and change its own production of certain chemicals. And so then over time, it stops to be as effective. And then when you go off of them, there's this kind of rebound effect where you feel, kind of crappy for a week or two. And it doesn't substitute lifestyle by any stretch of the imagination. Now, for someone with COVID brain fog, this one's a really interesting one. I personally, now I'm not going to recommend this. I'm not a doctor, but what I would do, Kara, if I was you, is I would see if going on a ketogenic diet for a week or two makes a big difference. I have a hunch that the anti-inflammatory effects of the ketogenic diet would have a positive effect on somebody like you. But you have to experiment with it and see, how you feel. But I hope that helps you out. Really, there's really nothing out there that's going to make a huge difference aside from your, things that might help improve brain health in conjunction with, good diet, exercise, and sleep.
Kara, have you tried the Organifi Pure yet?
I haven't, no.
Give that a try. I mean, Justin and I both love that.
Yeah.
And I had a bad experience with the Racetin, so...
Yeah. How's your sleep, by the way?
Sleep is pretty good. Yeah. Okay. I've been really toned in since I quit my day job and just working for myself. So it's been awesome.
How?
Just off of COVID, I've just noticed brain fog and a significant increase with the choline. So I was just wondering from there. Good. I'm like, oh, this stuff is great.
How long ago did you get over COVID?
Maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Here's some good news. That brain fog typically lasts maybe a month or two at the most. I know Adam felt fatigued for 6 weeks or so after.
Yeah, I'd say about 6 weeks.
And then it kind of got better after that. Yeah. My wife, the same thing. So, there's very, very small percentage of people from what I've read where it lasts really long. It's usually, from what I've read and people I know, it's like a month or two afterwards at most.
Cool. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Does that help? I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. Piracetam sounds like kratom in a way.
It's not at all. Kratom is.
Okay.
I love kratom. It's nothing like that for sure.
No, but hold on. Kratom, you will have. Kratom does have addictive properties, and you will have withdrawal if you take it regularly and then go off.
Kratom, that feeling that you would get from kratom is the same thing that you get from like an opiate, right? So it pairs with the opiate receptors, and you get that feeling of like happy and joy.
Yeah.
So it's less to do with like the mental clarity and more of that,
mood.
Yeah. It always puts me in a good mood.
Yeah, but when I talk to people about kratom, and I'm not afraid. I'm very cautious to talk about it on the show because of the withdrawal people can.
Oh, it's
feel
very
when they go off.
very addictive. I found myself starting off with like 6 of those 500 milligram pills, and then quickly to 8, then quickly to 10, then 12.
Yeah.
So you quickly move up. The body adapts to it, and then you feel like you got to take more just to keep up with it. I also have shared in the past about, I battled with opiate addiction in the past. So it's something that I'm very aware of. And
it's
so
like the lesser of an evil, right?
Yeah.
It's way, the withdrawal is bad, but nothing like an opiate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it could get there, though. I know people that keep scaling up before you know it. You're taking 30 or 40 of those things, and then good luck, so.
Definitely. I had to give it up. I was like, nah, this isn't working after a while.
You sound a lot like me, Kara. I understand the feeling. It's a good time, but you got to be careful.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Kara.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much.
No
Take
problem.
care.
Yeah, I identify a little bit with what she's saying. You look for things that you either can change your state of mind or help with certain, challenges you have. And in some ways they can become a little valuable. Mm-hmm. But like when it comes to like improving your mental clarity, like, man, if I get a good night of sleep, there isn't a thing that I've ever tried or stack that I've ever tried that even comes close to
that beats
just
everything
that.
hands down. Yeah.
Nothing comes close to something like that. And
I think that
just diet.
and actually just being fasted going into stuff like that. I always feel that one. That's the one. So I hate working out fasted, but I love to podcast or do something where I need to be sharp.
Totally.
I notice a huge difference when I'm just not fed. It's wild.
Yeah, I know. When we're going to go in and do like a big interview or something, I really need I really want to be sharp. I'll fast.
Yeah.
Because it does make a difference for me. Yeah. But working out performance-wise, totally different.
Our next caller is Chris from Minnesota.
Chris, what's happening? How can we help you?
How's it going, guys?
Good.
All right.
First off, I have to do the obligatory thank you for the content you produce. I really like that you guys make the health and fitness space entertaining to listen to on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That's all, Justin.
No. Please.
My question is about routine and consistency. I'm getting back into lifting and fitness after about a year-long break, and I'm starting into MAPS Anabolic. I've learned that I'm a very routine-driven person, and when I struggle to maintain consistency, it's usually because my weekly routine gets thrown off for one reason or another. So the actual question I have is, what other hacks and daily routines have you guys found to help yourselves or past clients make health and fitness a part of their daily life?
Oh,
Chris, did you listen to we did an episode, or was it, I don't know if it was Q&A or an episode that we did, and I talked about the weekend hack. Did you hear me talk about that yet?
Was that with Jason Phillips?
Oh, it might have been with Jason.
Was it recent?
Yeah, I think so. It was a recent episode. It might have been with Jason. I can't remember. But what I was talking about was making your win the weekend, and then the week tends to follow, right? So in the past, I used to train really hard and consistent Monday through Friday, I was the most dialed on my diet, didn't miss my routine because my whole routine was there. I had work schedule where I got to work at the same time and left work at the same time. And because I had scheduled clients all day long, I had to be very regimented about what time I ate. And so it was really easy for me to stay tight Monday through Friday. And then Saturday or Sunday would be, I sleep in, I'm tired, and then maybe I'll watch a little football on Sundays. Hey, if I'm going to enjoy off the diet, and maybe that's when I'll have my pizza, So what I found was many of these weekends, I would easily have 1 or 2 days that actually would kind of cancel all the good work that I did in the previous week because I was moving so little, sometimes not training, and then also if I were to overconsume, it would be on those days. And so I had switched this mindset up about, 7 years ago or so, maybe longer, where I said, okay, I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on myself throughout the week. I know I'm going to have some days off or I miss workouts or maybe I eat off the meal plan, but I'm going to win Saturday and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, that's going to become my day where I'm more tight around the diet. And then if I want to cut loose during the week, I will. And what I found was it sets the tone for the week. And because it's easier for me to be consistent during the week, even though I gave myself the flexibility to go off the plan or stop or take a day off, I wanted to stay consistent. And just, winning the weekends was a huge hack for me. So I don't know if that's something that you've implemented or tried, but anybody that I've taught that to sees a big difference in their consistency.
Yeah, Chris, I'm going to comment a little bit on your question because I don't think people realize just how important this question that you're asking is. For the average person, of all the factors that they need to consider when it comes to their workout routine, the most important factor is how can I organize things or do things in a way that will lead to consistency? Because a bad workout, of course, if it doesn't hurt, all that stuff, but a workout that's not that effective, done consistently, is more effective than a super effective workout that's done consistently. It's the most important thing for the average person. If I had to look at everything, I'd say just be consistent, number one, then let's look at kind of everything else. It's like the biggest rock, okay? Here's the single most effective thing I've ever seen help someone with consistency. And this is only if this particular thing works for the person. But if it does, it works better than anything else. And I'll give you a little bit of a background. When I managed gyms, and I managed and worked in gyms for a very long time, when you do that for a while, you notice trends in your facility. So, you work in these big box gyms, you see crowds of people coming in at different times. You start to notice trends, when it's busy, when it's not busy. Certain months are busier than other months. Who's more consistent versus who's less consistent. And there is no group more consistent in the gym than the morning group. Okay, the 6 a.m., the 5, 6, and 7 a.m. crew, whatever you want to label them, is by far the most consistent member base that you'll find in your gym. The evening people, super transient. You'll have a small group that always show up at night, but it's like the most transient is after work by far. The middle of the day, maybe not as transient, but not nearly as consistent. It's the early morning crew that you go to the gym. When I would go in at 6, 7 a.m., it was always the same people. And it was like that for years. It was the same people all the time, by far. Now, this is for me too. Now, I don't like working out first thing in the morning. If I'm comparing it to other times in terms of performance and strength and endurance and all that stuff. But the reason why I work out in the morning is there's no better thing I've ever done for consistency. If I start my day with my workout, I'm going to work out. If I end my day with my workout or interrupt my day with my workout, all kinds of stuff can get in the way. Even if you're fanatical, it just becomes a big pain in the butt. Work goes a little longer than you thought. This popped up. Got to pick up the kids. I'm tired. Whatever. But if it's the first thing I do when I wake up, it's the first thing that I do, and I'm the most consistent ever when I do that. So if it works for you, because this doesn't work for everybody, but if it works for you, start your day with your workouts. And if that's what you always do, like I said, there's nothing I've ever seen to improve consistency. No single thing I've ever done to improve consistency better than that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I guess, too, in terms of like things that I try to figure out initially with clients, like what's going to benefit them the most in terms of them coming back, having consistency, but also what's going to move the needle a bit more that's really not invasive. So like if I'm looking at it in terms of lifestyle, like Adam's talking about winning the weekend, I'm looking at certain things that will improve their posture, improve their mood, improve their energy, all these things that we can ritualize. So one thing I had clients do was something they'd normally do, like take a shower in the morning, they do a wall press in the shower, or they do it after they're done. They do something very simple that like covers a lot of the bases of the upper body, and it sets your shoulders right, sets your neck, sets everything in the upper body right posturally. And then the other one was like a 90-90, maybe that I'd have them do before they sit down to relax. They do that first thing and watch TV or do something like that. And then, you know, if they're eating, try to walk after they eat their meals, something like that, where it's like, it's very actionable and it's something that they can keep doing that doesn't really require a lot of effort or thought, which then builds momentum and builds going into then meeting and seeing me for the workouts.
Chris, I have another hack that's more recent for me now, right? So I used to be an all or nothing type of guy when it comes to workout and diet. And either I'm dialed in and consistent and crushing the gym, or I'm super inconsistent. And something that's changed in the last probably 5 or 6 years that I'm really good about doing now that I would have never done in my 20s, which is be okay sometimes with maybe that this workout today is just squats or just Turkish get-ups. And because sometimes I'll be sitting at home and it'll be like the weekend, and I know I told myself I'm going to get a lift in, and I'm just like, man, I am not feeling like a 50-minute hard training session in the gym. And so I'll play this game where I'm like talking myself out of it, and then I end up not doing it. Whereas now I kind of give myself this flexibility that, you know what, I don't need to go get 50 minutes in. Let's just go get 4 sets of squats out of them. I can go get 4 sets of squats. That doesn't take very much time. And what I find, one, doing something like squatting, deadlifting, Turkish get-ups, overhead pressing, there's such big, good gross motor movements that they have so much carryover and so much benefit just from doing them that it's okay sometimes for me just to have a workout where that's all I do. But what actually ends up happening more often than not is I go in with that attitude that I've accepted that maybe I'll just do 4 sets of squats. And then once I get it going, I feel good, and then I end up wanting to finish the workout. But a lot of it is the mental game of accepting that, hey, you know what? I don't have to do a full 50-minute workout. Maybe I'll just go in and do 4 sets of this movement that I know is so valuable, and allowing myself that freedom to be able to just do that sometimes. And again, what I find is I end up doing more or finishing the workout. And even if I didn't, I still got a great, 4 or 5 sets in of squats, which, like I said, has tremendous benefit to it.
Chris, do you have MAPS Prime by any chance?
I do. Yeah, that's been a real help.
Awesome, because the stuff that Justin was talking about obviously is in the Compass test. So I just wanted to make sure you had that so you knew how to do the wall press and what he was referring to. So I hope that all helped you out.
Yeah, it does. I really the morning thing you mentioned is probably the biggest thing, and probably also helps in developing a sleep routine too, which is something I struggle with as well. So there's probably more benefits than just being consistent at the gym.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for calling in.
Well, I really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Right. Thanks, Chris.
I remember managing, like when I first, I don't want to say, I was even before I became a manager. This was when I was like, a weekend manager or whatever. And I would go in hella early because I was super competitive. I didn't have kids, and I wasn't married, lived with at my parents' house. So I could just go be there as long as I want. And I would show up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., right? And I would do it. And I remember it took maybe a couple months, and I remember thinking, it's the same 30 people every time I come in at 5 a.m., every time I come in at 6 a.m. And the rest of the time in the gym, it was always like you'd see your regulars, but it was always like this changing crowd, right? Because we were in big box gyms, and that's when I remember thinking to myself, like, who the hell wants to work out at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m.? This is ridiculous. And then, of course, as you get older, you have kids, you have stuff and it's like, okay.
You can't interrupt it that way.
It just makes perfect sense. And the only problem is, the challenge is the whole, okay, I got to wake up early. I got to do that. And then I got to go to bed on time.
I've never felt as strong that early in the morning.
Yeah, totally.
And, so yeah, you have to kind of work your way through that. But I agree. It is probably the best strategy in terms of being able to repeat that, because nothing's going to come in the way of your workouts typically.
Yeah.
So.
And I do want to say, kind of reiterate this, that of all the factors that you have to consider, and they're all important, what kind of workout I do, intensity, sets, reps, exercise, that's all very important. We spend a lot of time talking about that. But if people just figured out the consistency piece for themselves, they would be 80% of the way there,
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the 5 a.m. crew is always the most consistent in every gym. But a lot for me has been having empathy for myself when it comes to like, I have to get this routine. Much of my drive in the gym was, all about this look that I was always trying to achieve.
And it just wasn't worth it if you weren't all 100%.
That's right. And so I had this pressure of like, if I'm not making gains in muscle size or reducing body fat, I'm losing, or I'm not progressing, I'm not moving in the right direction. And so I had a lot of that attitude when I looked at my lifestyle. And as I've gotten older, I realized like, wow, the real reason why I'm doing this is to be able to move and play with my son, to be healthy and to be, mobile. And like, when you think of those goals, if your goal is, longevity and overall health and mobility, it doesn't always have to be this 50-minute, sweating, killing yourself routine. Sometimes it could be doing prime movements, like Justin saying, like, you know what? I really need to address my posture. I haven't done any of that. So just sitting there doing the wall test for 15 to 20 minutes, like being okay with sometimes the routine doesn't look like this, structured 50-minute. Yeah. Sometimes maybe it's just a good walk for an hour. Maybe like there's been times like that on the weekend where I need to go lift weights, but you know what? Even though I'm not in it to go lift weights right now, I can throw on a jacket and go outside and go for a nice walk for an hour and go for a hike. Like,
you know what the irony of that is, Adam, is that you're without, and I know you know this, but for someone listening, the side effect of that is you end up looking better anyway because you're just consistent, right? So because you're not all or nothing and you're doing something,
right?
The side effect of that is what you would want from being all in all the time, So that's the irony of the whole thing.
Our next caller is Gabby from California.
Gabby, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hi. I have been having an issue with my knee. I got MAPS Prime and Prime Pro. But I work long hours. I'm a bartender, so I'm standing a lot. But I've tried, like 90-90. I've tried stretching. It seems to hurt a little bit more when I'm trying to come out of a stretch. So I don't know if it's helping or if it's hurting. So I'm a little bit lost because I can't really, I can squat, but not that heavy. Or if I go heavy, it hurts. And then if I don't squat, I don't know. It kind of sucks.
Okay. So try this. This is like a miracle cure. Take Icy Hot, Ben Gay, and Tiger Balm.
Whatever he's going to say.
I'm joking.
It's
totally
garbage.
joking. Okay, so I know you wrote your question up here, and you had asked why MAPS Prime and Prime Pro don't have a knee section. So let me address that first, Gabby, and then I'm going to ask you a few more questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So the reason why we don't have specific knee mobility movements in those programs is because knee pain issues tend to come from almost always the ankles or the hips. Okay. So, and the reason being is if you look at the knee joint, it only moves kind of in two directions. It flexes and extends. It doesn't rotate and it doesn't bend laterally. It only flexes and extends. The ankle and the hip they move all over the place. They move laterally, they rotate, they twist. They have lots of movement in comparison to the knee. And so what happens is if the ankle or the hip lacks strength and stability, then the ligaments of the knee tend to create that stability. And then over time, you can create problems, or even in the short time, you can get yourself an injury.
Which is also why she's probably feeling pain when she gets in and out of the 90-90.
Yeah. So here's a tip with the 90-90, by the way. Whenever you're in a position where you're externally or internally rotating the leg. So in 90-90, you have both, right? One leg is externally rotated. That's the front leg. And then one is internally rotated. That's the back leg. Make sure you flex your ankle. Bring your toes towards your shin, because what that'll do is that'll bolster the knee joint a little bit. Because what it sounds like you've got a little bit of inflammation and pain in some of the ligaments that prevent the rotating of the knee. And because you're rotating the hip and those are tight or lack stability, the knee is trying to stabilize with the ligament. So does that make sense? Where you take your foot and you bring your toes towards your shin and flex that while you're in position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would also have her foam roll before she gets in the 90-90. Yeah. That'll help. She might be so tight that when she's getting that, that's why she probably feels pain in the patella.
Especially, I'm trying to see of like how it's tracking. If you're really like tight along your IT band and like along the sides, like Adam said, that would help to kind of help put you in a better position. Also, too, if you have access to yoga blocks, This is another way to kind of regress, some of the intensity there within the 90-90 position. You elevate, your leg a bit, or you have, your hand is able to kind of, start from a higher position, which makes it more easy to get into that position.
Yeah, and also don't forget ankle mobility. So like, if my knees bother me, I used to think it was my hips all the time, and I'd work on hip stuff, and it would help a little bit, but not a ton. And then I learned later it was all in my ankles. So working on my ankle mobility, and even supplementing a little bit with my ankle mobility made a huge difference.
Well, one test with that Dr. Brink's done with us quite a bit is if you squat with your heels elevated and you don't feel pain and it feels pretty natural and easy, that's something that a lot of times you need to look at your ankle mobility and address that specifically.
There's a YouTube video that I did. I believe it's fixed knee pain. Doug, is that?
Yes, it is.
Is that what it is?
So we brought it up on a show before, and again, we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. So check that video
Really
out,
good
Gabby,
video.
because I believe I addressed the foam rolling. I believe I addressed the ankle mobility all in there. So that's something that you can do before you get. But that's the reason why there's nothing in Prime or Prime Pro related to knees, because it's going to be ankle or hip always. So that's kind of the area, all the exercises and work in those programs that's centered around the ankles and the hips is basically where you need to be. If it's really uncomfortable to get in the 90-90, there's a good chance, I don't know for sure, but there's a good chance that it's related to your IT. And then in that video I just referenced, it shows you how to foam roll the IT. That'll give you a little bit of relief before you go into the 90-90, and then that should help you out. And that's just something that you want to practice religiously.
This is such a visual thing too, as us trying to figure this out and cue and coach. One thing, so do you notice at all if your knees travel outward or inward when you squat down?
So, I normally I feel like it's more comfortable for me to have a little bit of a wider stance and have my feet pointed out a little bit. And then I know your knees are not supposed to cave in, obviously. So I work on pushing them out.
So it's more externally rotated, it's more comfortable.
Yeah. So, and it's always been that way. And I had been squatting for I don't know, maybe 2 years before I had any issues.
Okay.
And pretty heavy. And then I think it was when I started running and squatting. Maybe, I don't know, I think I remember one day specifically, I had ran 2 miles, and then that same day happened to be leg day, and I just went really
IT.
Yeah.
IT for sure.
sounds really tight,
100% IT. I would, for sure, after getting tight like that from the squats and then going out and running like that, I guarantee that. Have you ever foam rolled your IT before?
I have. So the thing is, it's mostly the inner side of my knee. It hurts more the closer I bring, if I sit crisscross, or if I go from pigeon to active pigeon, I can feel a sharp pain.
Yeah, this is your meniscus is trying to prevent your knee from twisting. That's what that is. So if you look at your knee joint, there's ligaments that prevent it from sliding forward, sliding back, bending laterally, and then you have the meniscus that prevents it from twisting. And so the reason why you're having pain when you're in pigeon or a 90-90 is because your hips are rotating, so your leg is turning out, and there's a little bit of lack of stability there, and so your meniscus is holding tight, and you're probably giving yourself a little bit of inflammation with that. Here's something. So the flexing of the foot will make a big difference, by the way. It might not fix it completely, but it'll help you do some of these positions. So you got to bring the toes back. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're activating the tibialis, and that provides a little bit of stability in the knee, or at least it prevents the meniscus from doing so much. The other piece of advice I'd have for you, Gabby, is while you're working on this, I would do mostly unilateral exercises for your lower body. So I would avoid squats, front squats, those types of exercise. And I would do...
I'd also take it easy on the running, too.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Take it easy on the running. And I would do unilateral stuff. Lunges, Bulgarian split stance squats, single leg toe touches. Just until things start to feel better, I'll go lighter and go slower, just to allow the inflammation to get a little bit better before you progress back to your bilateral movements like squats.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
All right,
Thank
cool.
you, guys.
Hope that helps. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, Gabby.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the whole knee issue is interesting because you know what one of the challenges is. You'll say to somebody, well, it's usually the ankle or the hip, right? And they'll be like, but I got imaging done and I have, patellar chondromalacia or I have inflammation of the.
Yeah, there's definitely compensations happening ligament wise, but that's not ideal.
No, and it's in the that rotating aspect of, like, for example, in jiu-jitsu, there's a submission called a heel hook, and it's literally you're twisting the leg while keeping their hips stationary, and people think it's a foot lock, but it's not. It's tearing your knee.
You're right.
Totally apart, and that's what's happening. The ankle moves, but the knee doesn't, and then you get the problem.
Yeah, we just got to get in better alignment, and then everything sort of we got to strengthen the supporting cast so that way like it keeps it stabilized.
Yeah, this will bother me too. Same thing.
Yeah.
If it's my ankles. If my ankles are really tight and I squat heavy, that's exactly what I'll feel. I'll feel on the inner or outer part of my knee.
I just want to highlight too, this is another reason why we tend to hammer the whole running thing so much too, because this is super common. It's super common that
gasoline on a problem.
Yeah, and then if she's getting real tight from her squats and she's already got this condition or issue going on, or the lack of ankle mobility and stability and hip mobility and stability, and then you go for a run on top of that, it's just like you're never going to get ahead of this, and you're constantly going to be battling this. So, regressing a little bit doesn't mean you can't go do cardio. You should go. Hiking up a hill would be really good, something like that. Yeah, or elliptical. There's other things that we can do instead of that, but this is why running can just be so rough.
And the main reason isn't necessarily because running's bad. It's because nobody treats running like...
because she has bad movement, and then she goes and does it a lot.
And,
and
nobody treats it like practice. Like, she's probably focused on her technique and form when she squats, but then when you run, what do? You run to fatigue.
Yeah.
And that's when things really start to, hurt.
Our next caller is Ashlyn from Minnesota.
Ashlyn, how can we help you?
Hi. So recently I had started weight training again after a really long hiatus. So I was approaching it as a beginner. I had been consistent for about 2 to 3 months until I got COVID. So since I've been out from training for about 3 to 4 weeks, and I've been wanting to get back into it, but I've been dealing with this lingering fatigue and exhaustion from the COVID that I haven't experienced in a long time since having adrenal fatigue. So anyway, my question is, what do you guys think is the best, healthiest, safest way to get back into weight training with this fatigue and exhaustion?
Yeah, good question. So there's a horse dewormer. I'm just kidding. Don't cancel us, Spotify. No, okay. No, I'm just kidding. No, okay. So here's the deal.
Doug over there cringing.
I know, he's already freaking out. All right, I'm going to give you the answer from my expertise, and then I'm going to give you the non-expertise answer just based off of stuff that I've read. Okay. So this is for sure the good advice. For sure, good advice is give it some time, go very slowly, and train according to how you feel. I've talked to lots of people that feel like you do after recovering from illness, and it seems like some people it takes 1 to 2 months before they start to feel like themselves. And Adam was somebody the same thing. He had about a month and a half or 2 months where he kind of felt crappy, and then slowly it came back. So that's the for sure piece of advice. Okay, here's some speculation based off of what I've read. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not a doctor, but I've read a lot about glutathione and NAC supplementation to help with recovery from COVID. There's been some studies to show there's a strong connection and correlation to low glutathione levels and severe symptoms of COVID and long COVID. So you can find liposomal glutathione. We work with a company called LivOn. They produce it. It's really good. It's one of the best ones I've found. And then NAC you can find online. Amazon doesn't sell it anymore because I think the FDA is trying to re-regulate it. And although it's been available for 20 years, weird why all of a sudden they want to do that. But anyway, that's a side note. Those two things right there, try supplementing with them and see if that helps with your recovery. But again, that's the part, take with a grain of salt. The most important part is just give yourself time. Everybody I've talked to that's been in this situation, it took them about a month to 2 months, and then they started to feel like themselves again.
As far as programming and stuff, do you have Map Starter?
I don't. I've been using a mixture of, don't hate me, fitness influencer programs that I felt took the best from each one and kind of made my own.
So I don't have a MAPS one yet.
We're gonna send you Map Starter. Yeah, Jesus, we don't want you doing
Bambi's
that.
butt builder.
Yeah, we don't want you doing that.
Is that what you're doing?
Map Starter will be absolutely perfect. Trust the process too. Anytime I put Katrina back on starter after she's been off for a while, she's always antsy to get back after it. I'm like, listen, follow the programming. I promise that you'll continue to see great results. It'll get you ready for something a little more intense. So I would follow starter. After you go through starter, then I would consider going to anabolic. So follow starter to T. We're going to send that over to you for free. That's what I would do. And then, so I just walked, so I would go for walks. And because I even noticed, like, if I went for like a long walk or like up hills and stuff like that, I could even feel. I felt like almost like there was like someone standing on my chest. Like it was just hard. It was harder for me to breathe, and it took me a good solid almost 2 months. And all I would do is I would go, or I'd be like riding the bike around the block with Max, and something that I could do for a half hour to hour, no problem. I could only do for about 10 or 15 minutes. And so I would just do that. I would kind of push to that limit, and then I would back off and then relax. And I noticed I'd be really tired after that. So definitely my body's talking to me, letting me know that was a lot for me at the time. So just take it slow and do walks and starter for now.
Just
and
listen to your body. I mean, you really got to pay attention to those signals and like take it easy and really take that tempo and that pace down substantially, so you can use this time to work on the quality of your form and the mechanics of the movements, and even just kind of sit in it for a while and rebuild that tension, and just kind of pace it out at a very slow pace, and you're going to build that momentum and get back when your body's adequately ready.
Yeah, Ashley, one more piece of advice, okay?
Yeah.
So are you a trainer or are you a trainer or coach? Do you coach anybody or train anyone?
I'm a yoga teacher, but not a fitness trainer.
Okay. So, awesome. So this is going to be great. Okay. So I have a little bit of knowledge of yoga. I've taken yoga maybe, I don't know,
he bought the pants.
maybe 30 times. Okay.
He wears the pants.
Yeah. I wear yoga pants on the weekends. No, all joking aside, imagine this, right? You're a yoga instructor. You know what you're doing. Imagine if you had someone like me who came to you and said, hey, listen, I'm doing my own yoga routine. I took like 15 classes or I watched 15 videos on Instagram, and I put together what I think to be the best routine for myself. Like, how would you feel about that? Or what would you think about that?
You're like, stop it.
Yeah. So what you're doing is, number one, you're picking routines from a pool of idiots. Okay, so
Yep.
fitness influencers are literally fitness morons. So I'm not exaggerating.
Get 'em, Sal.
They're
Get
dumb.
'em.
And what you're doing is you're not only picking from a pool of idiots, but then you're taking that and mixing it based off of your
randomly putting
your limited experience. So no offense to you, I get it. But you don't know what you don't know. And so what you've probably done is you're probably taking terrible routines and just making another terrible one. So follow Map Starter as it's laid out. Trust the process, just like you would want one of your students to trust your process, and then see what happens.
Okay. And should I take the program at the pace that it's saying to take it at, or should I just take it slow and listen to my body?
Always listen to your body. Always,
but it's
we factored that in.
Yeah, that's factored into it. That's why it's called Map Starter. Is the thought process is somebody who's been away from lifting for a while, or somebody who just came out of having a child. Like, it's definitely a good place for you to start right now, and just follow it as instructed. Unless if it is too much, back off. But I think you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate this.
No problem. Thanks,
Thank you.
Ashley.
All right.
I tell you what, man, I really appreciate the social media fitness influencers, because it's like
bringing us customers.
Boy, do they give us they give us a great
it just reminds me
part of the market, don't they?
Anytime we get something like that, it always just reminds me of how much more work we have to do. If you have somebody who's been listening to us for I don't know, obviously long enough to know she knows how to sit in a question and get on here, but then doesn't have any of the programs and is randomly pulling from influencers. It's like, how many of our audience is still, or how many people in our audience are still doing things like that? So
yeah, the problem is that they value exercise as just movement. Well, I'm just moving, so what's the difference?
I'll never forget the first time. I'm going to throw our friend under the bus here. when Craig and I were hanging out, and he referred to exercise programming as ice cream flavors.
Oh,
I almost fucking, threw my head through the wall after he said that. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? This is part of the problem. This is part of the problem is that people really think it's just ice cream flavors, and it's like, oh, you like Rocky Road, have Rocky Road. Oh, you like mint chip, have mint chip. It's like there's a lot of science that goes into good programming. Right. Just like it's more like programming for a fucking computer.
Yeah, a program.
Yeah,
you want the program to turn your computer on. You throw a couple wrong ones and zeros, and it doesn't do anything.
Yes,
or it crashes the whole thing.
It's a very effective way to get to your desired outcome, and it's just like there's a science behind it, and I guess that's why we get irritated, because immediately whether or not they're using any science in their program.
Yeah, well, and there's also a major difference between programming for results and just general exercise. Okay, so that I'll give you that general exercise is like ice cream flavors. Yeah,
sometimes
like if you just want to randomly move and just burn calories, and that's your desired outcome. But most people calling in, or most people listening to the show, have specific goals. I want to lose X amount of body fat. I want to build so much muscle. I want to run faster, jump higher, live longer.
Yeah, so you're consistent. That's great. Now let's look and see what's the best way,
right?
To be consistent. It reminds me of like when I have friends who, they're professional fighters or whatever, and they would always laugh at these like videos online of like, this is how you disarm someone who's pointing a gun at you. Like, oh my god, dude,
it's gonna perfectly like happen exactly how the person's coming at you. Right?
They're like, dude, they're gonna get someone killed if somebody follows this stupid advice. So it's hilarious. Look, if you like our content, you got to go to mindpumpfree.com and check out our guides. We have guides that can help you with almost any fitness or health goal. You can also find all of us on Instagram. So Justin is at MindPumpJustin. I'm at MindPumpSal, and Adam is at MindPumpAdam.